Everyone, thank you so much for joining us for this session, and I'm sure more people will trickle in the next few minutes. I am so grateful and so excited to welcome Mansoor Adayfi. Is that how I say it?
Yes.
Yes? Okay. Who is a writer, artist, human rights advocate, and former prisoner who endured over 14 years at the Guantanamo Bay prison camp without charges or trial. His remarkable journey has taken him from the depths of detention to becoming a symbol of resilience and tireless champion for justice. Resettled to Serbia in 2016 through a US-Serbia agreement, Mansoor has since achieved significant milestones. In 2021, he earned his bachelor's degree in management with a focus on the rehabilitation and integration of former Guantanamo prisoners. This commitment led to the founding of the Guantanamo Survivors Fund, or GSF, in collaboration with American lawyers and a US-based NGO. Additionally, he is currently pursuing a master's in project management. And on a call earlier this week, he showed me just a little bit of his research that was covering his floor because he is right in the midst of it. Mansoor's literary contributions are equally impactful, including his New York Times Modern Love column, Taking Marriage Class at Guantanamo, and the thought-provoking op-ed In Our Prison by the Sea. He's also written introductions and contributed to scholarly publications on the subject of Guantanamo and torture. His insightful interviews with international media and appearances in documentaries, such as PBS's Out of Gitmo, have brought his experiences and advocacy to the forefront. In recognition of his remarkable work, Mansoor won the Richard J. Margolis Award for Social Justice Journalism in 2019. His first book, which we of course have in the Rehumanize library at our office, is Don't Forget Us Here, Lost and Found at Guantanamo, which received critical acclaim and earned the 2022 Evelyn Shakir Nonfiction Award. He's also delving into the world of television and film, adapting his own works into exciting new projects. Mansoor, alongside Antonio Ayo, is a Sundance Institute Fellow in episodic TV and has a feature film in development, illustrating his versatility as a storyteller. This month, he turned in the final draft of Letters from Guantanamo, an audiobook set to be published on Audible in 2024. Additionally, he's currently working on his new book, Life After Guantanamo, which promises to be another impactful addition to his body of work. Mansoor's passion for justice extends to his relentless advocacy for the closure of the Guantanamo Bay Detention Camp. He embarked on a 400-kilometer bike ride campaign, Close Guantanamo, to raise awareness about this pressing issue. That's so cool. Notably, he organized and spoke at the Close Guantanamo conference at the EU Parliament. Recently, at the OSCE 2023 conference in Warsaw, Mansoor passionately delivered a statement focused on the closure of Guantanamo, continuing his unwavering commitment to human rights and justice. Welcome, Mansoor. And everyone, I hope that you get so much out of this presentation. I'm so grateful to have him here.
Thank you so much, Amy, and I would like to welcome everyone for joining us today on this another episode about Guantanamo and closing Guantanamo. And before we dive into the presentation, first of all, I would like to give you a warm welcoming from a Yemeni tribe greeting. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Ya hala wa marhaba rhibu. Hayakum Allah. Ahlan wa sahlan wa marhaba milyon. Basically, it says, peace be upon you all and welcome. So, before we start diving to Guantanamo case, as you know, Guantanamo has been open for the last 22 years, and it is one of the biggest, human rights violations in the 21st century. No exaggeration. And it's one of the biggest cases too, because the magnitude of the case and was created by the most powerful country ever existed in history, and yet still exists. Guantanamo was a product of the United States announcement of war, the global war on terror, and many products came after this announcement. So today we are talking about the closing Guantanamo, justice and accountability, because we need to step a little to understand, or what does it mean closing Guantanamo. Can I control the slides, or Amy? Can you hear me? So the military prison at at Guantanamo. I need to look at my presentation, so I'm going to depend on my own. So okay, the military prison at Guantanamo. Before we jump to Guantanamo immediately, let us shift a little our thoughts and our view, which is something media and people don't talk about it, which is, let us jump back before 9/11 and before the global war on terror to understand what happened, or we need to go back a little. So, when I was studying, doing some analysis, you know, I found one of the very interesting instruction, which says you need to look before the situation, in the middle of the situation, and after the situation, you can understand what's really is going on. So if you go back before 9/11 and the U.S. involvement in the Middle East and Afghanistan and so on, as we know that United States supported Mujahideen or the Afghans against the Soviet Union, and that started in the 19 during the Cold War. But that when the Soviet Union invaded Afghanistan in the 1980s, at that time United States won the war without losing a single sorry without losing a single soldier in the war, at that war. From that, in the 1990s, the Soviet Union collapsed. Then the United States emerged as a superpower. At that time, in the 1990s, Egyptian, Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, and Israel viewed those mujahideen as a threat, because the leaders and joined the fight against the Soviet Union, and some of them they have their own agendas. So there was some kind of torture, imprisonment, and kidnapping and assassination in those individuals. Anyway, then the name of terrorism started in the 1990s, in the mid-90s until the end, which is the emergence of Osama bin Laden, Al Qaeda, and the war was between two parties, or how we say, between Amman and the United States, Al Qaeda and the United States. At that time, Al Qaeda wasn't, and also at that time, there was no social media, no Mr. Google, no Miss Facebook, no Instagram, nothing. We will live in a different era. So basically, there was only in Arabic world, Al Jazeera, which covers, sometime, covered about Al Qaeda attack happened in Africa, in Saudi Arabia, in Yemen, USS Cole, and so on. So the conflict was, even there was a program in Al Jazeera, I remember, said a man against a country between the United States and Osama bin Laden. This is how the conflict was. It was between Osama bin Laden or Al Qaeda and the United States. That's it. Which Qaeda at that time, or even now, does not or didn't represent Muslims. Osama bin Laden didn't speak on behalf of Muslims and so on. So then 9/11 happened, and it was really a disaster, shocking attack, not just on Americans. It was on humanity. It was Muslims died too in the attack. But the question is, did 9/11 change the world? No. The way United States reacted to 9/11 changed the world. So it was a turning point, which is the United States announced, or George W. Bush. When I say Americans, I mean the government, not American people. Just please don't misunderstand me. So the George W. Bush and his administration announced the global war on terror. And George W. Bush says, either with us or with the terrorists. There's no in between. I mean, like, either whatever we do, you are with us, or against us, basically. So they launched a military invasion on Afghanistan through leaflets announcing for the people there, anyone who can, bring Arabs or Taliban or Al Qaeda, they get rewards. So at that, how the creation of Guantanamo started from the point after one of the very first thing was the creation of Guantanamo. It was created in 2002. The military commander who created the first Camp X-ray, it took them around like 96 hours to prepare the Camp X-ray, which previously that camp, there was some Haitian who detained there. So after the invasion of Afghanistan, as I said, that U.S. Airplanes were throwing leaflets offering a large bounty of money for anyone who would bring Arabs, Taliban, Al Qaeda, and so on. And many people sold, unfortunately, by either governments, individuals, warlords, and so on. And remember at that time, the prime minister who was in power at that time, he wrote a book on the line of fire, and he admitted that he sold Arabs because his country needed, I think, 350 some million dollar. So the United States were collecting people from different parts of the world. It's not just from Afghanistan, Pakistan, Iran, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, Mauritania, Bosnia. So that led to the creation of Guantanamo, where, George W. Bush and his administration announced like the worst of the worst. They brought people in orange jumpsuit, hooded, gagged, chained, and they said, we bring the worst of the worst on the planet, professional killers. So the flight where the CIA jets and American military airplanes were bringing people to either Pakistan or to Afghanistan. There was a military detention there, and they would bring people to transfer people to Guantanamo. But before we jump to Guantanamo and so on, the United States at that time administration were really smart. What they did, they started, constructing what they call, the language itself. They changed the language to suit their to match their campaign or their agendas. So we call it like terminology of war, which is, reconstructing the language. So and manipulating the language. So they call rendition, where the CIA were kidnapping people and send them to different black sites. We're going to talk about the black sites. They call it rendition. It sounds like sweet, prisoners of war. They call them either detainees or enemy combatant. Torture, it was called enhanced interrogation technique. Innocent victims, those who were killed in the, they have nothing to do with Taliban or Al Qaeda or terrorism. They were called like collateral damage. The hunger strike, it was called, not religious fasting. So, or force feeding, they call it assisting feeding or projectile feeding. So let's us back to Guantanamo. Before they were brought, many of us to Guantanamo, some of us to Guantanamo, we were taken to black sites. Those black sites, it's black site. They can be either anywhere. They could be in Afghanistan, in Pakistan, in some Arab countries. Presidents turn to a black site. It could be in some aircraft carrier in the international water or somewhere. So those men were taken to everywhere. The black site, nobody knows until now how many people were there and how many killed or lost their life at that place. Because the CIA get rid all the evidence. While we're torturing people, they were videotaping everything. And if you go to the Abu Zubaydah story called "The Forever Prisoner," you understand what they did to him, because he was the most tortured prisoner in the CIA history, where the CIA had a contract with two psychologists. They get paid hundreds of millions of dollars to develop what they call enhanced interrogation technique. So let me move my slides first here. So someone is calling. I don't know who is he. So then sorry. This is the first time when I'm talking to people, which I didn't see. So Guantanamo was created outside of the law, outside of the justice system, outside of the international law, outside of our humanity. Basically, Guantanamo does not have any legal basis. Even Guantanamo itself, there was just still, it's a victim of the global war and terror. It's a military prison. It's a military base. Within the military base, it's a prison. Basically, Guantanamo itself, it's a black site. So Guantanamo has been open for the last 7,957 days and 22 hours. There is like Gitmo clock, if you can Google it, if you can find it. So we talk about before 9/11. Sorry, guys. So the transfer to Guantanamo, what they did, the FBI, the CIA, and their advisors and consultants would evaluate each case. I mean, like when they interrogate people, they just like, he's Al-Qaeda, it doesn't matter. The idea was to bring people to Guantanamo and to start sorting those files, who is Al-Qaeda, who is Taliban, who is terrorism, who is Al-Qaeda and Taliban. They were after people who did 9/11, basically. And they shipped people to Guantanamo around 800 people arrived at Guantanamo. 800 men, 60 children, and 15 nationalities, and over 20 languages spoken. This photo you see now, it's the Amnesty International. It shows the location of the confirmed CIA black site. Those that confirm, and there's others. There's even black sites still nobody knows until now where they were. So move to the next slide, please. So Guantanamo itself, we are talking about 22 years. The worst years were from 2002 until 2010, which we call the dark age. Then there was a golden age when Obama was elected and he promised to close Guantanamo. But again, he failed to close the prison. So at that time, we're going to talk about that later. So welcome to our Guantanamo. This is the first photo were shown to the world at Guantanamo when they brought the prisoners. A prisoner will be taken to, after a long journey, it was like around 40 hours or something, especially in my case. When I was sold, in my case, I was sold to the CIA as Al-Qaeda commander and 9/11 insider. So I was taken to the black site where I spent around 3 months, tortured in the worst way. And all the time they were naked, most of the time hanged. So basically, imagine I was only 18 years old until 19 years old, 19 years old in the black site. There was no limitation to what they could to you. No limitation. Death is the limit. That's it. So, and the journey to Guantanamo itself, it was a process. They prepare you to the breaking point. Again, when you arrive at Guantanamo, you go straight to the interrogation room. I was like 40 hours in the two military planes, chain, hooded, cuffed, beating all the way. They had a sign, they put a sign around my neck called "Beat Me," and I got beating all the way. People screaming, crying, soldiers sitting, peeing when I was like posing, taking photos. When we arrived at Guantanamo, we arrived like that photo you see. They forced us to sit on our knees, and after that they would take us to a place called the process station, where they cut our clothes, except they just kept the hood out of our heads, and they start showering us like with large brooms, hoses, soap, whatever. I didn't know what the hell we're doing. So second slide, we said at Guantanamo there was around 800 men, 60 children, 50 nationalities, over 20 languages spoken there. All Muslims, doctors, nurses, mafias, CIA informants, Saudi assassin commanders, Taliban, some people associated with Al Qaeda, but not high ranks Al Qaeda, like the small, like bodyguards or like foot soldiers. But when we say that, the majority of the prisoners at Guantanamo, and that according to the report by ACLU and Seton Hall Law University, that 86% of the prisoners at Guantanamo were either mistaken identity or sold for bounty money, and only 5% were suspected to have linked to Al Qaeda and Taliban. The very first general at Guantanamo, Cambaxi, I remember, when he gave a speech when we were on hunger strike, he said 90% of you shouldn't be here, and he reported that to the White House, and they fired him. They removed him right away. So the men at Guantanamo, as I said here, maybe you'll be surprised, like Saudi assassins. Saudi Arabia sent a squad of assassins to assassin Osama bin Laden. They all were caught, imprisoned by Taliban. When American came, they shipped them to Guantanamo, and they imprisoned there until 2008. CIA informants who were also working for the CIA, they were also caught, and they were also again brought to Guantanamo. And drug dealers and all kind of people. Basically, you have all kind of people. It was like a piece of fabric of the world outside. But we all were Muslims. Second slide, please. So the oldest man in prison at Guantanamo, he was 100. I don't know if he's still alive or not. He was 105 years old. And there were two, one of them 103 years old, and that one 105 years old. I was, sorry, keep it please. I was in between them, one of my left and my right. So they weren't in Camp X-ray, but they were in Camp Delta. It was one of the worst moments to live with such people, because really old, they get treated the way we were treated, abused, got shouted at them, dragged into the shower, and we always fought with the guards, assaulted the guards intentionally to stop mistreating those individuals. It just, trust me, I don't know how, still like, I still feel the pain knowing someone who's like 105 years old. I mean, anyway, move to the second slide. So the actual camps at Guantanamo, or the construction at Guantanamo kept evolving, changing, and the mission at Guantanamo also changed. So the first camp that was built at Guantanamo was Camp X-ray, was built in 2002, and the first, I think, yeah, I don't remember exactly how many of us were there, but around like 160 or 150. We spent 4 months. Then we were shipped to Camp Delta. Camp Delta was made of shipping containers linked together. Camp X-ray, there was no toilets, there was no roofs, there was just a fence and cement. You know, it's 10 cages as one block, 10 cages like linked together, like separately. Each prisoner has had uh, its own cage. When we arrived there, we were not allowed to talk, stand, to pray, even to look at the guards. There was no rules. You know, when we talk about Guantanamo, like it wasn't, you know, a prison, because when you talk about the prison, there's an imprisonment system where there are regulations, rules. There is something already set up. But at Guantanamo, even the soldiers who work as guards, they weren't actually prison guards, they just soldiers, and they had no idea how to deal with those prisoners. There was no rules to tell them what to do, how to treat us. It just everyone improvising, everyone like bringing their own rules, their own, you know, the way they want to treat you. And those guards were told, the people who did 9/11, these people. And also they were also some kind like nervous and afraid, because they were told, these the worst of the worst. If you take one eye second, they will slit your throat. Imagine the guards later came to tell us that, because when they were told something and live with us, watch us eating, drinking, sleeping, you know, the narrative they were told and the fact just didn't match. So Camp Delta was built also in 2002, but it had a toilet and like small hole in the on the wall. And we had also a roof, but again it was too loud, too noise, and especially during the heat. And we have, can you come back to the camps please? Camp 4 was the face of Guantanamo. It was like a criminal, was built in 2003. It was used for media coverage and for delegation who came to visit Guantanamo. They moved around 50 to 60 prisoners there, put them in white uniforms, communal living. They had a TV. They play soccer ball. So when there were like media tours or delegations, they will take them to Camp 4. But the rest of the prisoners were in these camps where the torture and the abuses took place. So in 2003, it was a turning point at Guantanamo. A man arrived at that time, a general named Jeffrey Miller. And if you just Google Jeffrey Miller, you know that person. He was the architect of Abu Ghraib in Iraq, and before Iraq, he was in Guantanamo. When he arrived there, he was a camp commander, and what he did, he skipped all the chain of command, and he created his own channel to communicate directly with Dan Rumsfeld and George W. Bush. That man, when he arrived, he wrote the camp SOP, Standard Operation Procedure. We call it, as prisoners, we call it shooting paper. So, and he, with the, if you call the memo of torture sent by Rumsfeld, he started also established the torture program at Guantanamo, then take it back to Iraq in 2004. By the end of 2000, when he moved to Iraq. So he started at Guantanamo, and he was sent to Iraq to ghettoize it. So that man, the mission of Guantanamo now changed. It was, sorry, let me finish the camp. Camp 5 was built in 2004, and it's like a maximum security prison. Like Camp 6 was built in 2006, also like a maximum security. Camp 7, I think, was ship container, and that was special camps. You have Camp Echo, was also a special camp. Camp Iguana, they killed the children. Camp No, that was also the black site for the CIA. Camp Rabbit Hill, which is also run by the CIA for recruiting. These are the camps we know about at Guantanamo. Some people say they're like there are more, but I don't know. Second slide, please. So the prisoners at Guantanamo, like they didn't call us prisoners, they call us detainees. Because why? Because if they call us prisoners, that means we deserve some rights, especially according to Article 3 in Geneva Convention, which is also was a prisoner at Guantanamo. So they call us like detainees. There was like high value detainees and low value detainees, or big fish or small fish. So this the how they categorize us at Guantanamo. In 2003, the torture program, the intense torture program started. That time it was supervised by psychologists, consultants, advisors, and so on. And there is a report. If you Google now Guantanamo America's Battle Lab, you will see how the mission of Guantanamo was changed. And the report was done by the Seton Hall Law University, and I think some of the lawyers contribute to that report, and also everything based on the government document. So the interrogation and torture took place land, on the sea, on the air. Aircraft carrier was used to imprison and torture prisoners. Some prisoners were transferred on the coffins, interrogated in those jets and airplanes, tortured, abused, and so on. Sometimes we wondered if there was if they have bases in the space. I think they would take us there immediately. They will never let us on Earth. So the United States, really powerful country. They have all the money, the resources, they have everything. So why not? Interestingly, in 2002, there was students, Yemeni students, who studied in Iraq, and later he became Al-Qaeda propagandist. He was doing like the montage, the videos, whatsoever. And he was with us in the same like. In 2002, one day he told us that the CIA told him if he helped them to link Saddam Hussein to Osama bin Laden and Al-Qaeda, they will release him immediately, and they will bring all his family, and he will get I don't know how many millions of dollars, and they will change his nationality and so on. But he refused. And honestly, we didn't pay much attention. Why would they want to link Saddam Hussein to Osama bin Laden? 2003, we knew what the game was. It was that they invaded Iraq again. So welcome to Guantanamo. Next slide, please. This is Habibi. No, not Habibi. This is Gerald Jeffrey Miller. He's an asshole, by the way. So at that time, he was so arrogant. He got splashed. Prisoners splashed him with urine and feces and spat on him and so on. But he was really, he did lots of bad things. One of his victims, not just us as prisoners, but also some of the guards and camp staff were victims, especially the ones who, not honestly, we were not just the victims of Guantanamo. There were guards, camp staff who oppose the torture and inhuman treatment there, and they were also either punished. Some of them actually fired. Some of them actually imprisoned and tortured. I know about 2 cases. One of them was an Air Force interpreter, and the second one was an Army captain. The Army captain, second slide, please, see if they're there. So, this is the enhanced interrogation technique. So, right. So basically, this Abu Zubaydah, the way he was tortured in the black site and so on. And if you just Google his name, enhanced interrogation technique, and Abu Zubaydah, there is a lot of information and photos. He's an artist. Basically, what he did, he painted the way he was tortured. So basically, General Jeffrey Miller, when I remember in 2003, we had a chaplain called Jim C. He arrived as a military captain to serve prisoners, and those service Muslims in the army. The at Guantanamo, the religion, our religion as Muslims of Islam was used also as a way in the interrogation tactique and methods to interrogate and torture prisoners. So James C, as chaplain, he opposed that because this is his job. What he himself became a detainee. General Jeffrey Miller, contacted with the Pentagon, and they accused him of espionage and aiding the enemy. They put him in the orange jumpsuit, put him in a hood, handcuffs, the same way they treat us. And he went through the I don't know if they call him also enemy combatant. Imagine if they did this to their own service, their own military personnel, what they would do to us. There's no protection for anyone, even American citizen, even you. I can't tell you this. I'm not scaring you, but whenever they want to go, they can go as far as they want. Especially now, the message behind Guantanamo: we can do whatever we want. We can go as far as we want. So if those Americans, the other one was also like Air Force interpreter, he printed some materials. He was allowed to do it from the book they give it to because not all the prisoners were allowed to have books. Only the people in camp were. So what he did, he printed some kind of those from the books and give it to them. It's what authorized, but yet he was also in prison and interrogated, and they put him also under sensory deprivation and so on. Guantanamo upside down world. Next slide, please. So you can go and read like the approved interrogation techniques. This is the Army field manual. And second slide. This also the enhanced interrogation technique. This also in the tertiary report. By the Senate tertiary report. Second slide. And this one, they said they did it, but it wasn't approved. Basically, this is just for the show. But behind that, if you read Abu Zubayda's testimony and his lawyer, there's a report about it. You can see how far there was no limitation whatsoever. Let us move from the report. Go another slide, please. Okay, as they said, what was the purpose of Guantanamo? As we said, it was experimenting on prisoners because it was logical for those military minds. They said we are going to go with war with these kind of people or Muslims for the next 50, maybe 100 years, and they need to understand. That's what they think. They need to understand what kind of enemy they are up against. So at Guantanamo was the perfect place because there is nothing, no law, no rules, no international treaties or international law apply there. Not the Cuban, not the American Constitution, not even the animal, nothing. Even the Guantanamo has more right than prisoners. So it was the perfect place. Secondly, they have different mindset of prisoners, all category of age, different mindset. So it was the perfect place to conduct such experience because they want to know how to interrogate those men, how they negotiate, how they talk, what kind of people we are up against. And you have around 50 nationalities. So that was the place where they start conducting their experiments. Guantanamo also the most secretive and the most expensive prison in the world. Like imagine the prison itself every year costs around like $540 million a year. So welcome to Guantanamo, yet still open. Next slide. Yeah, this is the research Guantanamo Rigs Battle Lab. You Google it, you can find it. Second slide, please. At Guantanamo, until now, still there are still 30 men remain at Guantanamo. 16 of them have been cleared for release. Some of them have been cleared for release. These are the 16 who have been cleared for release. Some of them cleared for release in 2010 and 9. Yes, they're still there. 9 men died at Guantanamo. At least 3 or 4 died under suspicious circumstances, where they, there is claim that they were died under the torture. And there is a book written by one of the guards who was in duty the night the 3 of the prisoners died, called Murder at Camp Delta. When the first death at Guantanamo, there were like 3 prisoners who died. Go back to the first slide. Harry Harris, one of the camp commanders, what he said basically, this is like it's asymmetrical warfare. Imagine those men who already died there under the interrogation. What they sold to the media, it is like asymmetrical warfare. Basically, this is what they keep Guantanamo secretive. When you keep something secret, you either protect something or there is something wrong. So at Guantanamo, everything wrong about Guantanamo. And when you control the narrative of Guantanamo, you control what the people think, control what truth you want to tell the people. Until that day, there is a lot of secrecy around Guantanamo. Even now, when I talk to my lawyers, even when the lawyers take notes from their prisoners, anything has to go to the secret facility, and the government will look at it. Then they will decide whether they'll allow them to say it or not. Until that day. Next, second slide, please. I don't think slides work for me. This is Geneva Convention, guys. Also, you can see Article 3 Geneva Convention. So basically, the Geneva Convention were printed and put outside of the fence in the rickyard. So beneath, if you see the second title there, it's called Detainee Camp Rules. And the first one, if you will be punished if you failed to follow the second rules. I remember it very well. And when they brought Geneva Convention, they said Guantanamo doesn't apply there. They put it there anyway. So second slide, please. These are the victims of Guantanamo. The man on the right, Jim C. He was a military and army captain. Also, as I told you, he was in prison. He wrote a book called For God and Country. Check it out. It's a really good book. The man on the left is Ali Al-Halabi, also was imprisoned and accused of aiding. Both of them accused of espionage and aiding the enemy. Both of them were also discharged, and will be discharged later on. All the charges were dropped because George Freeman was crazy. Second slide. Okay, before we go that, I'm not gonna stick to that. I will just improvise now. Just talk about the way I talk. So basically, this is the little history of Guantanamo. So when we arrived at Guantanamo, we didn't know each other, and we had no shared life with each other as prisoners. We arrived there. It just like an orange jumpsuit and numbers. They give us bracelets in our hands. I was 441. I'm still 441. So the worst part of that, we didn't know where we were and until when we were going to stay or what would happen to us. And this question always we ask them, what have we done? And we told them, if we had done something, please try us before your justice system. Later on, we found out that American justice system itself is a victim too. So the justice system needs justice. What makes us as I'm going to say that because I want to tell you something that change us. What makes us as a unique human being, as individuals, each of you, those traits, which is our names, faith, values, morals, ethics, experience, knowledge, memories, and language. So, for example, if someone take your remove your memories, you become a shell. Remove your knowledge, experience, take part of you. So these were our DNA at Guantanamo. We start behaving the way we behave. It just. But the mission of Guantanamo is about control. They want to control you and change you. You are not allowed. You cannot talk. You cannot stand. You cannot pray. You can't. You start losing everything. So we started really normally to fight back, to react to whatever they threw at us. And we played exactly what they wanted. When the time passed at Guantanamo or in prison, the more you stay, the more you are distanced from your previous life, the more you are distanced from who you are, you know, and your brain would start constructing a new you, a new memories, knowledge, a new emotion, a new relationship, a new experience, a new knowledge, and everything. And everything related to the environment we live in. So 10 years later, or 12, 13 years later, we found out we are different because we grew up at Guantanamo. And someone once asked me, how did you spend your 20s? And this, one of the questions that shocked me, like, what? I never thought, what even 20s? I didn't remember something in my life called 20s. I said, I didn't know. I didn't know until that day. I didn't know what 20s is. Basically, the time for us at Guantanamo froze. And when we get out, there's a huge gap in our life. So the period between 2002 until 2010 was really intense, torture, abuses, and we went on hunger strike over and over again. We tried to resist, we tried to support each other, we tried to, do whatever we can do. Go to the slide so we can talk about how people managed to survive at Guantanamo and what, yeah. So basically, let me go to my slide too because I cannot see it well. So what helped us to survive at Guantanamo, first of all, like as Muslims, our faith. And so faith played really an important role in our survival at Guantanamo, especially when someone oppress you, torture you, abuse you day and night, and you don't want to give up to that person. It's like, and the worst thing, you see someone who take control of your life, take control of your being, and that was about what was the what is Guantanamo was about control. So that also strengthened our faith. I remember one of the days, one of the interrogators, because I was naked in one of the interrogation room, and he used to bring really cold water, and he used to say, "Your file and your life in the hand of the president George W. Bush." So I told him, I have a question for you. Do you think if your president have the area, would he be able to control his asshole? He said, no. I said, okay, if he cannot control his asshole, or he cannot control me, basically. So for me, I told him, I believe that everything in the hand of Allah, like whatever is written there, I'll do my best to get out of it. It was simple, but was powerful. And when we were saying that, they get really upset, like, we control everything. So, no, I did not control anything. Everything has been written there. It was a simple belief, but for the interrogators, everything really was under control. Even the air we in our cells, they control it. The temperature, sometimes they would pepper spray, sometimes there was no air, everything, they control everything. Also hope. Hope is a thin line between life and death, basically. So too much hope is problematic, and no hope at all that can lead to that. Also, what we did, we went on hunger strike many times, tried to change the rule, to protest. And honestly, we started with peaceful protest, tried to, we were throwing our stuff, refused to eat, and they were laughing at us. When we found out that nothing impacted them, we start fighting physically with the guards. Not every the guards, only the bad guards, the bad people who treat us bad. We started, like reacting the way either like splash them, fight with them, whatsoever. So disobedience too. That were important. Not follow the SOP, no follow the rules, nothing. It just whatever they do, we did the opposite. Fighting back. So also the legal representation. The first lawyers arrived at Guantanamo was in 2004, and I got my lawyer in 2009. Some of the prisoners got in 2015. But when the lawyer came down to Guantanamo, news started coming out to the media and started, fighting courts, making some kind of pressure on the government. The friendship with guards and camp staff to, sometimes guards who cling to their humanity and weren't actually happy about what's going on there. Honestly, when you arrived at Guantanamo, we looked at Americans through scope of Guantanamo because these are Americans. They will treat us, and Americans also look at us as Muslims through 9/11 scope, which both were wrong. Anyway, so also the media pressure was really important. Sense of humor. It was a way to survive, to have a sense of humor, because at the beginning we were taking things seriously, react and get upset and mad and angry. Then we were just hurting ourselves. Then we just making fun about it. It wasn't easy, but sometimes we try not to show our pain, because when someone in pain, you feel that pain. Neighbors, your friends, you hear someone get beating, someone being tortured. It also brings pain. And what worse than torture, honestly, when you wait to be tortured. So we experienced that. So there was a period where they were torturing us, and they would give us like time to relax. Not relax in a way, it just gives you some time to recover a little. And that's one of the worst period, because you are waiting, what's going to happen next. It's going to like start again. Uh, Also the solidarity and supporting each other. One of the very one of the important thing we did there. We stood for each other, supporting each other. We had kids, we had elderly, we had sick people, so we were fighting for each other. Art, singing, dancing, poetry, yes. And they took that as a challenge, because as I told you, the way they look at us, if we do something or do something, they like, you challenge us. Everything, hey guy, this is our life, this is the way we behave. What do you want? What they wanted us to, or what they wanted to see? They want us to see us scared, afraid, in pain, feeling the pain of the prison. So what we did, we organized like each block once a week, organized singing, and we would sing in different languages: Arabic, English, French, Farsi, Urdu, you name it. People dance. There is pain, but we hide it. Just try to show and it become like a way now. Just forget about live your life in the prison. It wasn't easy, especially those who was married and have kids, and but you have to survive. And when you have people around you, like other prisoners, it was easy. It wasn't easy, but it's easy to survive, because there is people always, the pressure is not on one person. There's scattered around. Uh, so yeah, and there was also art in 2010. The situation in 2010 changed when Obama failed to close the detention. So we were on hunger strike and force feeding for some of us for 3 years, some of us for 5 years. I was in 3 years. Force feeding is another story, and hunger strike we can talk about just in one session about that. So basically, what they used to do, they used to put the thick tube in our nose, and here's Habibi Santos. He was there in 2006. This is Santos, and this is me on the force feeding, and he was watching me there. He got upset when I recognized him. Anyway, so yeah.
I'm sorry. We only have 1 minute left until we have our next session.
Okay.
I am so grateful. So go ahead, last sentence or two.
Okay, so basically, you can read the story of Guantanamo book. Don't forget us here. It's a long story, and I want to talk also about life after Guantanamo. Sorry, guys, there's a lot of things to talk about it. But also, I read something really beautiful about Guantanamo called "The Beautiful Guantanamo." Please read it. It talk about the beautiful side of Guantanamo. I have a lot to talk about.
I know. I honestly, like, I could have you talk just for like 4 hours, and I would sit enraptured and listen.
Okay.
So thank you so much.
Thank you.
I highly recommend you get his first book. Of course, he has another one that's in the works, so keep your eye out for that. And I'm so happy to be connected with you because, you know, I know we were already talking about like trying to invite you to come to our conference next summer already, because you're just a breath of fresh air, and being able to hear your story is so important. So thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing your joy with us and your resilience with us. We're so grateful.